Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwantner. Welcome to Selling Power TV. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Nick Kane. He's managing partner with the Janek Performance Group. Welcome, Nick.
Hello, Gerhard. Nice to see you.
So let's talk about sales training. What are the key elements that ensure that companies get the best results for their sales training?
Yeah, it's a question we hear all the time, as you can imagine. And I think there's several factors that influence an organization's ability to drive maximum results from a sales training initiative. I think one of the things we really look at is what happens not only at the training event itself, but also consider what is the overall training implementation plan. What happens before, during, and after training to ensure that you're driving maximum results from the initiative.
So I would guess that it is after the training that's the most important.
I think so. I think there's a lot of preparation that goes in that before piece, really assessing the structure of the organization, and the bandwidth, and ensuring that the plan that you're developing is practical for that organization. Right. But yes, a lot of the legwork, we always say at Janek, the real work starts once the training is done.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So what are some of the pitfalls that companies need to be aware of when it comes to training?
So I think one of the first things that an organization needs to consider is how they view training. And what I mean by that is organizations that view training as a process and not as an event typically drive better results, right? Some organizations look at training as some sort of magic bullet, and you bring people into a classroom and you deliver a couple days of training and it's going to drive performance improvement. And ultimately that's just not reality, right? So I think one of the pitfalls there is looking at training as an ongoing process is one of them. I think it starts with looking at the managers within the organization first, right? So one thing we always look at with our clients is what is the bandwidth within the organization to support the coaching and management of these skills after the training is delivered. But we also look at what is the skill set and what tools do the managers have to be able to provide coaching and ongoing support to their direct reports.
So that's the way you look at it. What about on the inside when you deal with certain companies? I would imagine that a lot of them want to have the quick fix, the silver bullet.
Yes. Yeah, and I think part of that is making sure that you're working with the right stakeholders within the organization to ensure that you are driving the message and the importance of this initiative top down. So working with the executive team, working with the head of sales, if you will, to really explain the importance of implementing this the right way, right, with a smart plan. I think once that is done and you have the right messaging that's driven from the executive team, you typically can change that mindset a little bit and get the organization to really buy into the importance of making this a sort of all hands on deck approach.
But I would also imagine that there are a lot of internal priorities that are competing with a training initiative. Yeah. How do you handle that?
I think ultimately I think the first step there is to help understand what is the true priority within the organization, help the executive team and the management team understand where those priorities are, and help them see the value that training, coaching, development, and support provides in driving results for an organization, right?
So there's a lot of innovation in the training industry. There's a lot of technology coming, a lot of learning platforms.
Yes.
But also there's a lot of know-how how humans learn. Talk to me a little bit about those innovations that you have come up with.
Yeah, it's a great question. We've spent a lot of time as an organization over the last few years focusing on innovation around skill sustainment following training, right? And we've seen this as a problem in the industry for some time. Sales training is synonymous for providing sort of a lift immediately. You start to see some great performance. People come out of those workshops motivated. Then they go back to the real world, and typically behavior starts to revert back to their old habits, right? So because of that, we've really focused on innovation. One of the things we've developed at Janek is a learning reinforcement technology that helps learners sustain the skills by delivering scenario-based questions to the learners over time with subject matter that's built into that system. So it's very practical, it's very timely for salespeople. To go back and ask them to reread information or study information is challenging because salespeople are busy. So this provides a very practical and useful tool to keep the skills and knowledge in front of them over a consistent and extended period of time.
So you're really watching both the learning curve and the forgetting curve, and then you push up the memory that they have acquired and shoved aside.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, and managers play a big role in that system as well. It's a fully integrated platform across both the sellers and the managers, because there's also reporting that managers will receive to support their coaching efforts around how well they're becoming or how proficient they're becoming in the skills.
So can you give me an example, a real-life example of a company that has worked on exactly that problem, where they're up the forgetting curve or eliminate that?
Yes. Yeah, actually I can. There's one client that comes to mind, a client in the financial services space that we've been working with for some time, and that was one of their biggest challenges. They had implemented sales training in the past, and it sort of fell flat, right? They delivered it, and they weren't seeing the spike and the long-term results that they anticipated. So we worked with them closely. We partnered with them to deliver a highly customized sales training program, but more specifically, we implemented our learning reinforcement technology and also some tools for the managers outside of that to drive skill sustainment and results long-term. And the client has seen amazing results. Their market share is up. Their overall revenue has increased since we delivered the training. And ultimately, the client is very pleased. We continue to work with them today.
So final question, what is the impact of a skills training on the salesperson's level of motivation and confidence?
I think it's key. I think it's, quite honestly, I think it's one of the most important things, right? Salespeople are motivated and are confident when they have the skills to be able to perform the job at a high level, right? So ultimately, the skills that are implemented are going to drive their ability and capabilities to do the job well, and ultimately, they're more motivated and more capable to do the job. Yeah.
And if you don't train them, you cannot blame them.
That's true, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gerhard.